Take two.
What's up?
Hey, man.
How you doing?
I'm good.
I already know how you're doing because we've been here for like a half an hour.
I'm just trying to nail down this intro.
Do you want to get into bow hunting?
Bow hunting?
Yeah.
I would love to get into bow hunting.
Okay.
Actually,
You should
I
buy a
almost
bow.
bought a bow. Would have been this past fall.
Yeah.
Like right at the worst time. So I would love to get into bow hunting.
You should do that because I recently started dabbling in archery, and I want to be able to do it with more people.
Okay.
So I heard that you were looking, and you should do that. So
Yes.
I bought a bow last year in the fall, but I wanted to get one the year prior so that I could practice all year and like try my hand at it last hunting season.
Uh-huh.
That didn't happen. That's the boat that you're in right now. You're in the same boat I was in. So anyway, so I bought a bow last fall, a year late, and then now, so this spring is the first time that the first season that I can get it out with the warm weather and like actually start practicing. And I've been really enjoying it. And Calder mentioned that you were looking for a bow too, kind of like recreationally, loosely in the back of your head, looking for a bow, and you should do it so we can shoot together.
Yeah, we went
We can like practice together and like start together.
yeah, and we can be terrible together.
Yes.
And like just throw arrows off into the
Right.
woods. We went to Bass Pro. Had to have been like the end of like November. It's obviously nothing's in season or whatever. But is that when the season ends?
What?
It was in the winter. Anyway.
Yeah. Late. I mean,
It was too late.
Around
Like
here,
the season was
late
over.
fall, yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. You can tell I'm obviously not a bow hunter yet. And we went in and looked at a couple of nice bows. So yeah, I want to do it.
that would be fun.
There's a discipline to it. Bow hunting, just like anything else, takes a lot of skill and information and learning about. And it seems like I don't just start things that are like easy to do. So
Yeah.
I like things that have a discipline to them.
Mm-hmm.
And bow hunting is very technical and very takes a lot of skill.
I didn't know that. I just wung it. I'm just winging it. Oh, geez. Am I doing it wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just started. I borrowed a target and I stuck it out at 10 yards and started thwacking it with as many arrows as I could. That's
Are
how
you
I
hitting
started.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 yards.
But
Not so
you
bad.
put it out to 20 yards and it's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's nuts. It's super fun. But yeah, it's crazy how like when you're shooting like rifle, you're like practicing, you're sighting it in at 75, 100 yards or whatever, 200 yards, I don't know, whatever. But with an arrow, like with bow, with archery, like you put the target at 10 yards and that's literally like 10 yards is not that far. And
Right.
you get confident. You're like, oh, okay, I can do this, like 10 yards. Then you put it out to 20 and it's like that confidence goes away super quick for a
Right.
beginner.
Yeah.
Like it's that your distance as you put it out like 10 yards, only 10 yards, the difficulty is like exponential.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then if you try something at like 40 yards, which feels very, very far for a beginner, like probably shouldn't be shooting 40 yards as a beginner, then it just feels like you're never going to hit it. It's crazy. 40 yards. Imagine like not being able to
Yeah.
hit a target with a rifle at 40 yards. You'd be a terrible
Yeah.
shot.
Mm-hmm.
But with a bow, it's like, anyway, you should totally get a bow.
Well, I know that archery and shooting rifle. I'm very familiar with shooting firearms, but like archery,
Right.
totally different thing. So you
Yeah.
can't just come in being like, oh, well, I've shot a bunch of rifles before.
You mean the police don't use bow and arrow?
Maybe they did at one point.
Speaking of being proficient at firearm usage, how did that happen?
Actually, when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of exposure. Like we were more into sports and stuff. We're so outdoorsy that way. Maybe a couple of times shot a rifle in some backwoods or something. But when I went to the police academy, we had extensive training in firearms, obviously. We carried an M4 in the car as well as a Mossberg 12 gauge. And then those were kind of easy to get to handle and get to use and learn because you can be more accurate. Well, not with a Mossberg. You don't have to be very accurate with one of those. But I think for me, the pistol work took the most discipline and was the hardest to do. But after a few weeks of shooting every single day, which is our firearms portion was, I really just grasped it pretty fast. And then, I ended up shooting super well in the qualifier and like all that kind of stuff. But I love it now. Like handguns, I can shoot those with relative ease and accuracy.
Right. So most people around here, like just being in a hunting community, would be like a lot of people would be shooting rifle a lot. I don't think that like handguns are a popular thing in our area, but like then there's you, and you're like, so you might be like, besides the police officers in our area who would be proficient as well, but like you would be like an expert in that topic around here.
Yeah, I mean,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, you
could stand with the best of them.
Yeah, yeah. We had regular training and qualifications after we were already on the force and stuff like that, and you had to qualify quarterly through different courses, and I was proficient enough to where the guys who were running our SRT teams, like our it's probably saying. Yeah, special response team, what I just said. But if you don't know what SRT is,
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like the SWAT team. They were kind of recruiting me heavy for like maybe 2 or 3 years on the force. Like, you really need to come out, and we would love to have you. So didn't end up actually doing that because I don't know. Just I was busy enough. I was doing enough things, but I think that I could have gotten into that. I would have liked to do that, get into some special weaponry and tactics, and a lot of my buddies did that. And so, yeah, I think I would like to. It's something I would have liked to have done while I was there.
Yeah,
and just put it on the resume and have that experience. So,
I got a small taste of, like watching you, using a pistol. We took the pistol course together, the New York State pistol course, because you have to.
Yep.
If anybody didn't have to, it would be you, but they made us think you had to go through it just like the rest of us. And we took that together. That was super fun.
That was fun.
Aside from the fact that it's a 18-hour course and it's, classwork, and it's mostly just, petty work that doesn't really make you any more proficient at knowledge and use of a pistol.
Yeah.
But the field work portion was super fun, going through that with you, and that was a lot of fun. We could talk about that sometime. But that's a great segue into your life. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And you can go start wherever you want. You are a former police officer, correct?
Correct.
And current athlete, but most of your life, right, baseball would have been your passion. I would love to share a lot. Like, your baseball story is pretty fascinating. I always like listening to you talk about baseball stories, whether it's college or when we've talked about stuff here on the podcast before. That I just love hearing about your baseball. I like sports and I like athletes and I like hearing the stories. So why don't you tell us a little about your childhood and where you're from? And most people know you, but you can tell us where you're from and what you're about and how you got here in your life and where you're at now, wherever you want.
Yeah, I played baseball obviously through coach pitch and all the way up through, and really loved it. And it was something that I could excel in, and I could kind of see real-time results. And it's easy to even gauge yourself with the competition and kind of where you're at as far as the level that you're playing. Mom and Dad really encouraged us to do things that we love to do, and so that was one thing for me that it reinforced, and it led to some baseball clinics and going to Danny Meyer's summer camps and things like that. And I played Little League just like any other kid, and I'd been on the All-Star team and had those experiences. But when I got out of the Little League, I didn't go to school. That's something that I think most people would know. But from starting school until my 9th grade year, I was homeschooled for all of those, so I didn't have access to a lot of the same resources that maybe other kids would, because they don't allow it in New York State. And so I played some Babe Ruth, which is like kind of your intermediary
Pee-wee baseball.
Yeah, kind of right before even modified, let's say, that kind of time period. And I think it was during that time when Dan Myers, who was the local coach for the varsity team at Lowville Academy, had written a letter to my parents, kind of just showing them all the opportunities that baseball could bring me, and that they would want to get me playing at the high school level and then hopefully, further than that. So I went, we had a discussion with mom and dad, and they're just so good at letting me lead that situation, but also being the parents, because I was only, I was pretty young still. And I decided that I'd like to go, and they encouraged that and supported that. So I went to high school for 4 years. It was a bit different than I was used to, but didn't have any problems acclimating to that.
Yeah, so you always say that, and I think that most people would have, when you talk about the transition from homeschooling to public schooling, you always say like that wasn't that difficult for you, and I feel like for most kids that would be very difficult. I know for a fact it would have been difficult for me. Moving around a lot and going to different schools was difficult, so I know that I would have had a hard time with that transition. So tell me what you mean when you say that was like, why do you think that was so easy for you? I believe it. Like it makes, like, I know who you are. Like, I believe that that's true. Like what do you think like helped?
Well, I'm so likable, and I'm not
Is it instantly popular?
Yeah, instantly popular. No, I had known a lot of kids through baseball. So that made it kind of easy that my age group, let's say, when I went to high school, I knew them. We played summer ball together, and we had done a lot of even since Little League. Like a lot of the guys who were in my high school classes I played with them since I was 10, or 9, and so we had that relationship already, which kind of helps. It gets you into the groups in high school. But I totally get how it could be difficult for somebody who's not used to that atmosphere, who is not prepared for the social aspect of schooling, but also the curriculum is different. Like in homeschooling, you can be a little bit more flexible because it's not so rigid, and there's not so much emphasis on the timing and the periods and how much to do this and how much to do that. It's just different. It's completely different. And also the transition from high school to college is very different in a similar way. So I could totally understand how people would have trouble with that. Calder did the same thing, and I don't think he had a lot of trouble, but I think for the same reasons.
Yeah.
If we weren't involved at all, and it was a brand new school and brand new people, I think I would have had a lot harder time.
I wonder if that factored into your parents' decision to allow that to happen, is that they already knew that the social side of things was kind of taken care of, like that you'd be okay socially. Because I think that would be the biggest struggle for most kids, is getting into that social environment. Like it's I mean, it can be hard. Like kids are kids, and like
and
socially that would be difficult. Yeah.
You would know because you've done this.
Yeah.
So like you've gone school to school and had no friends there and had to make brand new friends. I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So I think if I would have had to do that, it would have been
a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe would have stemmed my excitement a little bit, or even my enjoyment of high school. Because I look back at high school days, and I'm
definitely would have.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. And I did get a lot of opportunities. Dan was right. So I ended up getting some looks out of college, or out of high school, to go to college. I went and toured a few, especially like the local ones like St. Lawrence and some others around here, but didn't really feel like it was a great fit. And John Northrup, he won't listen to this probably, but great guy, came to a lot of my games in high school. He was the JCC coach, the local community college.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And he was at my games. And I really appreciated that. And he had kind of told me that he really wanted to build the program around me. He was newly coaching there, I think. And that is something special when you can show your vision to somebody and where they fit and how they're going to be part of building that. So I went there for a year and had a good time there. And when we got done with the first year, my freshman year, I had gotten an invitation through a few different channels to go and try out for a Division II school in Connecticut. Very out of my comfort zone. I had always been a homebody. I was homeschooled, so that may have something to do with it. But I always thought I would stay here I thought I would live here, and this is just where I was going to be. I would get married and have kids and work around here. So to go to college far away was never an option for me. Far away, it's about 5 hours. But went down, did the workout with them, and they had showed pretty significant interest and said, we would love you to come down, and we'll have you starting, and a few different things. And I went down after talking to Dad, and that's where I started my sophomore year. I had to tell my coach at JCC that I was moving to a different school, bigger school, better competition.
Better opportunity.
Yeah. And
which you understood, I'm sure it's opportunity. That's the name of the game, right? Like that's what his job is there at that school, is to create opportunities for his players, right?
And what a great leader too, to encourage me to go and do something better. And so I did 3 years there. The first year I was there, I didn't play a ton. I played behind a kid from Central America that was really good, but I felt like I was at his level and that I could earn the spot, so I worked really hard that year.
What position do you play?
I played like middle infield, so shortstop, second base. In high school, I was the second baseman for my freshman year, I believe, and then shortstop for the rest of the three. So I had transferred as a shortstop. In JCC, I was a shortstop. Yep. And big role, a lot of responsibility, but I was comfortable with that position because it's kind of the leader of the infield, but I had played that since I was a kid. So I have a very analytical bent when it comes to most things, and even with sports, they talk about the guy who's constantly thinking and playing scenarios out in his head before they even happen. That is me through and through. I did that in my policing career. I do that all the time. Just even with my family, I'm what happens if this happens? What can I do here? Like I'm just constantly thinking like that. It's kind of weird. It's probably some kind of disease or something. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Called being responsible.
Yeah, but in baseball, that's how I was. So I would communicate with my infielders and my outfielders. Base hit to left field, we're cutting two. It's going to be through the shortstop. If it's in the gap, we're going to be, we'll have second baseman come out. This guy goes here. And that's what you want. Like if you've got infielders that are buying into that and are constantly thinking of scenarios, if the ball's hit to my right, I've got a short, I got a flip to second base here. If it's in the hole, I got to get one. Is that funny to you?
Oh, dude. I could never do that.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean,
I played Benny stuck me at shortstop in church league one year, and all I could think about is, like, don't drop the ball. Yeah. Like, not any of that. Like, there's no step 2 and 3 in my brain. Like, I was just like, don't fumble the ball. Oh, there's a ball coming my way. Can I pick it up? Can you even do that?
Throw it the right place? Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's a difference.
That's the mental preparedness thing for my short-stopping, I guess, career was important. And so I went down there, sat behind the guy and played maybe half the games, like nothing. This is my sophomore year, and in a lot of ways I feel like I kind of wasted that year.
Was that tough?
Yeah, that was a struggle.
I mean, for every athlete at that caliber, you're probably thinking, like, I deserve this. Or maybe not I deserve this, but like I if I had a shot, I would just show him. If I had a shot, I could show him. And like kind of like that urgency, that eagerness to play, and not feeling like, and I'm sure you probably did struggle with thoughts of like, I'm better than this guy. What's going on here? Or did you? Like, how did that? What was your mental process like that year?
Yeah, I'm not one that will just take a back seat easily. And
yeah, it's any good athlete, I imagine.
Yeah. So the head coach at the time had invested a lot in this guy, and I think that played a part into it as well, because I felt like I was outworking him. I was going to batting practice more often. I was going and doing extra work. I was lifting more, and I wanted to perform better also, which I performed well. It's just hard to perform well when you're not in all the time, in especially in baseball. So sitting behind him was difficult for me. I struggled with that a good amount, but my mindset was pretty much that I want to make it obvious that I'm at that level and I can play there. And growing up, from little league all the way up through, I was a starter. I was the guy that was at shortstop, and I didn't have to prove myself as much. So this was a good time for me to learn how to be better,
to deal with it. Like that's the age old trajectory for most athletes, is like dominate, and then you get to a place where like you're humbled.
Yeah.
And you feel like, and you can go one or two directions.
Yeah.
You can go just completely south where you're, I deserve this, poor me. And then you will fail. You'll end up failing and you're never going to go anywhere. Or you go, yeah, this is rough, but like, what can I do to be better anyway? And yeah, it's a great story.
I had to battle that. Like, it was very easy when the guy who was starting over me was up to the plate to wish, I hope he gets out. Like, I hope he doesn't do well.
It's a dichotomy in team sports.
Yeah, you have to fight that. And I think that I was able to do that pretty well. Like, I was frustrated and I wanted to play, but I also wanted the team to do well and win. And if he was going to be there, then I wanted him to be successful, even if it meant me taking a back seat. That was a learning thing.
Coaches notice that too. Coaches will notice when you're rooting for the other, when you're not rooting. Like, there's a leadership quality there that you can't let that take over, because that's not going to get you anywhere in the eyes of the coach. He's going to look at you and say, yeah, you're better, but you can't be rooting against your own guys. You're a terrible leader. Like,
but your attitude is just,
your attitude
it rubs
matters.
off on everybody. And when you have a teammate who is all about themselves, and I mean, I've had lots of teammates like that who thought that they should be starting all the time, or were angry that they weren't and are pouting at the end of the bench. It's like, that rubs off. That hurts your culture. It hurts a lot of things. And and it brings your team down. Like, it can actually make your team lose. And so I was back and forth with my dad a lot. He's one of my best friends. He's a huge mentor in my life. And he's just got a wealth of knowledge on how to deal with those kind of situations. Especially when he's removed and can see something from the outside, it just seems like the advice that he gives is always on point.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good gift.
What do you have to say?
Well, just that this is you can control what you can control. Yeah. Like, I can't be in the coach's ear, and I'm not going to go to the coach and say I should be playing over him. It's not going to happen. So I just wanted to prove that I was there and I should be playing. And if the other guy did well, great, good for the team. Team player first. Personal stuff comes after. And in college, it's kind of hard to do that because you have limited time and then you're done. So wasting a whole year out of your college career is a quarter of your career. So I think that was something hard too. But long story short, the head coach had then left after my sophomore year, and the assistant coach came in and said that it was of the assistant coach's opinion that I should have been starting every game. And so for the next 2 years, that's where I was. So, and that's what shows. Right. That's what shows.
Right. Exactly.
And like, I wanted to be the teammate who was reliable, but not bitter, because nobody wants to play with that guy.
Right. It's not just about there's two aspects to it. There's like the physical play, and then there's the leadership. And like, that is just as important as the physical play. And you can't just, the fact that you handled it well meant just as much as how good you were at playing baseball.
Yeah. And I don't want to prop myself up much on that, because I definitely had the thoughts. I definitely had the frustration. It's hard to put your work in and not be recognized, or to be constantly benched and not get the opportunities. Like, if I could just have a week of at-bats, I could show. And so
something that
I didn't handle it perfect. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that assistant coach must have noticed. Must have noticed something. And
even to the fact of telling me preseason, you're our everyday guy at second base. You're going to start every game there. And then we're going to put you at the top of the order because you get on base. And I never had like the kind of batting average that would light anybody's hair on fire, but my on base percentage was high because I would draw a lot of walks. And then I had value stealing bases. So they knew my value. What's that?
Moneyball.
Yeah, Moneyball.
I
was the Moneyball guy.
On base percentage.
Yeah.
OBP.
Yeah. And like not the flashiest numbers. And so that was kind of it. And that's where I was.
So your junior and senior year.
Junior year was the best year.
Okay.
I don't know, we're kind of running close on time probably. You want to take a break there? What's it say?
We're at 27.
Oh, okay. I'll just say real quick then. We my junior year was a really great year. I got conference player of the year a couple times, or player of the week a couple times. And so I was kind of striding because I had gotten the encouragement from my staff and was just going to go out and play. And and had a really high fielding percentage, and we went to the conference finals, which was kind of like nobody saw that coming. Mm-hmm. And so that was really fun to see. And then same thing with my senior year. I had worked really hard my off season the senior year to kind of make a push to maybe play at even the next level after my senior year. Mm-hmm. And just a few games in, busted my hand real bad. And that was it. It was surgery and the end of my senior season, and the future was kind of unknown.
So we started off just like jumping into the middle of your life, and there's no format here, folks. We just talk about what we talk about. We're getting to know Brock, and he's telling us a little bit about his baseball career and all that, but we're not telling the birth to now story in any particular order. So you're going to get to know us as we talk pretty organically about our lives and other people's lives. So this won't be a linear process, but right now we're talking about Brock's baseball career, which is a pretty huge part of your life, right? Oh, baseball is a pretty massive part of your life. And we're just kind of skimming the surface here, but you're telling us about for the sake of making it like an interesting topic, you're telling us about your baseball career ending injury. That makes it sound interesting, right?
Yeah.
A little sad, but more interesting, right? So tell us like what happened, like how did your senior season go, and tell us what you were thinking leading up to that. Like I know that season was, your junior, senior year, you're like thinking about, scouts coming to watch you, and give us the whole lowdown on what those years were like.
Yeah, I think you have to probably rewind to the end of my junior year. I had made it a point to get stronger and work really hard. That was kind of, maybe it's because when you're senior year, you're like, this is all I got. This is it. Like it's ending.
Yeah, and you thought you had a shot.
Yeah,
like you could have
played.
You could have.
I wouldn't have been drafted or anything like that. Yeah. Just the market that we were in. It's Division II. It was wood bat, which is very serious, and guys were getting drafted out of our conference. So there were scouts at games.
Yeah, this was very serious for you.
Yeah, it was very serious, and I was at the position where if I could play at the next level, I needed to put in the work in the off season and then have a really good senior year to kind of get some eyes. Now, I don't think that I would have necessarily gotten looks for like an affiliated team, like the Yankees farm system or something like that. But I could have maybe played single A ball somewhere or independent ball starting out. So that was kind of my goal. And I knew that I had work to do to get there. I really went hard that off season, and going into the, all summer I played ball, and then the fall and winter we were playing at our college just to get things ready for the season, and I had done really well during the off season in the fall. Changed my swing, was hitting the ball really hard. Had felt really at a good place defensively and agility-wise. I wanted to steal as many bases as I could, and I was going to go for the record that year. I guess I had maybe geared up for it a little too much, hindsight, because I think that if I wouldn't have gotten injured, all of that hard work would have been more repeatable the next year if I wanted a red shirt. But I went really hard. And then the 8th game of the year, playing against Lemoyne, I was stealing third base. I was on pace to break the record that year. And my thumb got caught in the turf, and it broke my hand in a couple of places and tore the bone apart where the tendon is attached or the ligament is attached for your UCL, which is called an avulsion. Pretty common injury, but basically makes your hand useless. Like your thumb is pretty important to your hand, and if you don't have that, especially on my right hand, my throwing hand, and my guide hand for hitting, you're done. So I broke the hand, felt it right away, standing on third base. The trainer came out. It was a 1-0 ball game or nothing ball game. Late in the game, and he said, I think you should come out and we'll get it looked at. Dan Smith, in case you ever listen to this, he was an ex-Olympic trainer who now is the head trainer for Quinnipiac Hockey, who won the
championship. Yeah.
2 years ago.
Sounds familiar.
So he's legit and really knows
your
what
hand.
he's.
I don't know, man. I think your hand's broken.
That's what he said. He goes, I think we're probably dealing with an avulsion.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I told him, I remember saying, I'm just going to score quick to try to give us the lead.
I mean, the lead.
Yeah. And then we'll look at it. So actually, that's what happened. Next guy got a base hit. I scored. We won 1-0.
Kobe Bryant,
Yep.
situation. Nice.
Yes, I am just like Kobe Bryant. That's the moral of the story.
You didn't run to home plate with a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
Run with a broken thumb. So
Yeah, so I
bring it down a notch.
Yeah, running with a broken thumb is not that hard. Yeah, so I scored, went in there, and he immediately started working at it. And he's like, I don't think that it's attached, but you can go in between games. It was a doubleheader, and try to take some swings in the batting cage just to see like if you can.
Thumb's like flopping around.
Yeah, basically. So the interesting part was it was just front toss, like from 4 or 5 feet away. Here you go, like just hit it, see how you feel.
Yep.
And I was popping everything up, like I couldn't hit a barrel.
Wow.
Which is like hitting off a tee. You should be able to hit it good. And I think it's just because I didn't have the mobility in my right hand, so
Threw everything off.
Just threw everything off a little bit. So I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Did it hurt?
Yeah. He put a little brace on it. The next day we went to a specialist who was like top 5 in the country or something like that. And I remember going in there, getting an X-ray, and going and sitting in the room. And the nurse brought in the X-ray and put it up on the little light up screen. Mm-hmm. And I have no medical knowledge, of course, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm fine. Like I sprained it. It looks fine to me. Mm-hmm. And the hand specialist came in. He goes, hey, how you doing? And he turns his thing. He goes, that's not good. So I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's funny.
He goes, yeah, your ligament is completely detached. And the actual ligament didn't tear. It ripped the bone apart where the ligament was attached, if that makes sense. So like the ligament was still there and the bone was attached to the end of the ligament.
That's the avulsion, or is that the...
That's called an avulsion.
Okay.
Yes.
So I had a similar situation when I broke my hand skiing where a tendon, correct me if I'm wrong. Here we go. Nick's not a scientist, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh, boy.
I had a tendon. I had the same situation with a tendon, which I think is called a contusion.
Okay.
The bone broke away before the tendon came off the bone.
Okay.
On the right side of my right hand.
Okay.
Still hurts to this day. Does yours hurt still?
Not really. No. So
yeah, it hurts.
So they scheduled me for surgery.
I never had surgery. Go ahead.
And that was season ending. Yeah. That was done.
Season's over, son.
Yep. Season's over. Senior year's done. Unless you want to try to redshirt, which I think I would have been just at the 20% mark. Yeah. If you play more than 20% and then you get hurt, you can't redshirt. At least that was the policy, as far as I know.
Whoa, say it again. If you play more than 20%
of the season
and get hurt, you don't qualify for redshirting. You play too much.
Pretty much. I think that's how it works.
20%? Wow.
We could look it up. You can fact check us. We're not experts, but
that's crazy. That stinks. So you couldn't even redshirt if you wanted to?
I could have. I think it was 8 games.
Oh,
and
okay.
We played 50 or 52 games, so it was close.
Oh, geez, that's a lot.
Long seasons.
Okay, gotcha.
But I had already had 6 stolen bases at that point in game 8. Mm-hmm. So they went in and reattached and anchored my ligament. There's a piece of metal or something in my hand that's holding my thumb together. And we had a discussion before the surgery. He said, you can let it go, but it's not going to heal right, obviously. And you'll have issues with it forever, or you can get it fixed and your season's over. Mm. And I was kind of, at the time, thinking, this is my senior year. I worked so hard for this. How am I supposed to just let it go? Right. And he goes, well, it's going to be this similar thing. Like, if you want to be able to pick this up and set it down with ease, or pick up your newborn child, or I think that's what he said. And I pretty much at the moment was like, oh, okay. It's bigger than baseball, so let's get it done. Got in there like a week later, and they stitched me back up, and I just followed the team around for the rest of the year. And that was it. I didn't feel like I was in a place to start again, to do all of that, to redshirt for a year. I was getting older. You have to put your whole life on hold.
You worked so hard for that season, you couldn't see yourself doubling down, and it was just a lot to do it, to repeat and do again when you kind of put your emotions and your hard work into it.
Yeah, and there's money issues there too. College is expensive. I wasn't on full scholarship. I did have academic and sports scholarships, but it didn't cover everything. So that's a consideration. Now your
financial decision.
Yeah. Mm. And my college work was done for my degree. I have a bachelor's degree in history and education. So that was the plan. I was like, I'm just going to go on with my life, I guess. It doesn't really make sense to do all of that to pursue a independent baseball, professional baseball career that isn't really going to pay. And what's the point of doing it? Maybe just to say that I played pro, and it wasn't worth it to me. So I was ready to get my life moving.
How old were you at the time? That would have been like 23?
2014. I was 23.
Yeah.
So
yeah, whole life ahead of you, but like at that moment, you feel like the decision is so critical. Like most people look back, like if somebody older than a 23-year-old hears a 23-year-old thing, oh, this is such a critical, they're like, oh, you like
you have your whole life.
You have your whole life ahead of you. Like quit worrying about it.
Yeah.
But like at that time, it feels like such a massive decision. Yeah.
And with tough. Spring sports too, like you kind of have to make a decision because it's not like it was the fall and then I would have the whole year to think about it before I wanted to decide if I would apply for a red shirt. It was too much at one point, and I think that I had burnt out a little bit preparing for my senior year to being like, that's so much work.
Yeah. Like people don't understand that like college sports is a year-round thing. Like in high school, you play 3 months of football and then you move on to the next sport and you don't play football again until next year. Like, especially with baseball. Baseball is year round in college, right? There's fall ball. You're doing stuff all year. It's like a full-time professional gig.
Yeah. Almost. So if I was to say that I wanted to redshirt and play another year, that starts right away. As soon as the hand is good to go, you're playing early summer, all summer. Then you have fall ball. Then you're working out in the field house all winter. Ground balls, batting cage, working on fine tuning your swing. All of these things have to be constantly evolving and continuing to play at that level. Right. And I just looking at it now, it's hard to look back at it now and go, oh, I wish I would have just done it. Mm-hmm. But my coursework was done. That was consideration. What do I do? Just go and take random courses for no reason and pay for them? It just didn't seem like a logical decision. I think it's different for an athlete that's maybe even full ride or a professional athlete who's getting paid. Okay, I can put the work in and I'll be back next year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess I'm...
How do you feel it? Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, when I think about it, I it's hard. It's hard when you're removed from it because, like, even when I was there, I know that I put in the work. I know that I did. But in my mind, I'm always like, I could have done more. Like, I could have done twice as much as I did. You're a college student, and I was a president list student, so I was getting good grades and I was doing my homework. But I wish that I had the drive then that I have now for areas of my life because it could have been different. It could have been stronger. Could have been faster. Yeah. Could have hit the ball farther.
Yeah, you'll feel that way.
Yeah.
10 years from now about where you are now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of not even
growing and maturing.
It's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
So I got done with that and then I thought that I was going to teach. So that's what I started pursuing.
Okay. And that brings you back to Lewis County?
Potsdam.
Yeah.
So I was here that summer and working for Dad and was getting ready to do my master's work because you need that in New York State to be a teacher. Right. Apparently.
Yeah. So then we became roomies.
We were buddies.
Part-time roomies.
Potsdam.
Yeah.
Potsdam house. That's a whole podcast on its own.
Small time college life up there in Potsdam.
Yeah, like when you look back at it, it was very short.
It was, yeah, it was super short. Like a year.
And was it?
I don't even know, like a year and a half.
I think it was out of season when I went and took the police test. So I think the semester was over, and then it was the summer. It makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where the next season led.
Yeah, so you moved on from baseball and you're kind of shifted gears towards, all right, I got this history degree. What can I do with it? Did you always, so you kind of leaned towards teaching, and you can tell us about how you landed there. And I guess that would lead me into my next question, which would be, did you always plan for it to be education when you decided on the history degree, or how did you land on teaching?
I love history. I love American history in particular. I had some excellent history teachers in high school, Mr. Cornell, Mr. Commandor, and Mr. Griffiths, and Mr. Fail. He was doing the U.S. government side of it. Those guys inspired me. I loved it already. I had a kind of predisposition to loving history. I since I was a little kid, I was playing with toy soldiers and lining them up and redoing, the Battle of
what? History major?
Gettysburg, whatever it was, with my little toys
Yeah.
and lining them all up. And I just loved it. And so the way that they taught inspired me, and I thought I could teach like that. I could make history amazing. I would make it so much fun for the students. And make
hands
them
down.
love it. Because the fact is that today, the amount of people who actually know what history is, and even just American history, like when was the country founded? People are like, no, 1812, 2015. Like, say some crazy things. And amazing how we've lost that. And I think it's just because, for the most part, in education, kids have a hard time learning. Everybody's different, and it's very hard to have a teaching style that encompasses everybody and makes it interesting and fun. And I thought that gelled with my personality, and I could do that. So,
for sure, yeah.
My counselor was like, "You should go for, if you're interested in that, go be a teacher." And so I was in my master's program, and I had actually taken steps toward applying for my doctorate, even to be a professor. Similar reasons. But at the time, the EdTPA was just being instituted. It was brand new. There's a bunch of guidance from the state that came down, and nobody really knew what was going to happen with it. And I just happened to kind of fit like in that weird space. And so I was in one program, and then I got moved to another program, and it was just I was just kind of starting to lose interest with the
hurdles there. Yeah, the criteria for what it took to become a licensed teacher or whatever in New York State was like it was like unknown. And it was like
it was daunting. That I don't like the unknown a lot. Like I said before,
hard to plan for.
I'm a planner, unfortunately.
Hard to plan for,
which is good and bad. So anyway, that kind of segued into my cousin Corwin, my best friends. He said he was going to go take a police test, which is something he had been working for, and I had always loved that as well. Like there was history, and then I was always playing cops and robbers, and I loved policing and different things. So he was like, "I'm going to go take a test down where I used to live, and in Connecticut." And so he's like, "Do you want to go?" And I don't remember at the time being super excited to be like, "Yeah, let's go." I
didn't feel like real, or like didn't feel like
felt
real.
like it wasn't the path I was going.
Okay,
and so I don't deviate from paths easily. But I had started to kind of pull back from the teaching thing and been like, this is getting a little ridiculous. And, Lord, what's calling my life? Like, what is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And out of nowhere, Corwin calls and says he's going to go down there. And would I want to go? Which is kind of strange. I knew that he was going to do it anyway. But the fact that he would even think of me, or maybe God put me on his heart to go with me, or to go with him. So, at the time, I was not super like, okay, yeah, rah, let's go. But I was at a different part in my life. I was single, and Corwin had, he was married and had a family. And so we were at different parts in our lives. And for me, it was like a plus to be able to spend some time with him anyway. Like, I'll go 4.5, 5 hours in a car. And at least it's quality time with him that I haven't had in a while.
Yeah.
So we went down, and we got right into the process, actually. And the first thing is a physical test, which is a 1.5 mile run, a certain amount of push-ups, and a certain amount of sit-ups for your age group and your sex. So we knew we weren't going to have a problem with that. We're physically fit, especially at the time in our mid-20s. We knew that we would be okay with that part, but it's a long ways. 4.5, 5 hours down, 4.5, 5 hours back. That's 10 hours. So we went down and crushed that workout, and knew that we would get an invite back. But on the ride back home, I had the thought that this is a waste of time. Like, it's just so many people that are trying to get very limited spaces. And I don't know the exact number, but when I got there, it was like if you could imagine a 4-story high school where there was a line the entire length of the hall, up the stairs, all the way back, up the stairs, all the way back, up the stairs, and then down a long corridor, down a hall, and that's how many people were there. It was hundreds, and maybe somewhere in like the 700-800 range, I think, for 8 spots.
Yeah, so this was this is a big area, very busy area near where you went to school, right?
Yeah. It's about,
like you were familiar with the
about
area.
10 minutes away from Bridgeport.
Yeah. So you were very familiar with the area, and this was
It's
a
actually
large
the city
police.
I lived in.
Okay.
So we lived, when I was in college playing baseball, we lived in this town, in this city.
Gotcha.
And so I was familiar with the area a little bit.
Large population area, big
Yep.
big police department.
Yeah.
A lot of people applied for the job,
Yeah.
and they were hiring for 8 positions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if anybody's looking at and doing a cost benefit analysis,
10-hour
is
drive.
it worth a 10-hour drive to
Yeah.
get a rejection? So we got the call back to go take the written test, which was next. I had no experience in that. I didn't take criminal justice. I didn't know what the test was going to look like.
Like a civil service exam type of thing, or
Kind of, but specific to, it's a chief's test there. So they can do it their own way. And it's
probably
difficult.
a little harder than a civil service exam.
Yeah. And so we had gone down and no experience. Actually, let me rewind a little bit. Let me back up. Corwin had asked me if I wanted to go down for that. And at the time I was just like, man, there's so many people. I don't know if it's worth going. And he said, no pressure. Just do what you think is best. That's it. And so I slept on it that night and thought about it. And in the morning, he's like, I'm leaving, so let me know. I texted him and just said, okay, I'll go. Which is so weird because I'm go with the flow with some things, but I don't know what made me go. So we got in the car, I went down, and I tested real high on it. Had no experience with that kind of testing at all. Probably a testament to my education, I would say, because hindsight now, I'm not using my degree, but you learn a lot of good things in high school and college that helps you learn how to learn.
Right. You learn how to use your brain and think critically and deduce answers and
And writing and reading and comprehension were important for that. So went down, did super well on that, got the invitation next. Corwin had also scored very high, but wasn't quite at that threshold. So they weren't inviting him back to the next one, which made it real hard for me because now I have to go down by myself if I want to continue this. And seamlessly, my parents jumped in and said, we'll go with you. We'll give you company and, we'll alternate. We'll take turns. And that's what they did. So we went down like another 7 times or 6 times for different parts of the process. One was a oral board, one was a polygraph, one was a psych test, one was a chief's interview, one was a physical exam. And then there was a couple of others that I had to do for bookwork. It's just so much. They really vet.
What kind of questions do they ask you on the polygraph? Everybody wants to know.
So I can't give away all the secrets because when I was
in
my law enforcement career, we developed a polygraph unit.
Oh.
So I have the inside scoop on some of that stuff.
Yeah. Basic stuff.
So
what's your name?
Extremely nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
The polygraph is no joke. You're in a room with an auditor.
Hide, son?
What?
What do you have to hide? You know what they say if you're nervous?
Kind of.
Trying to hide something. No, I bet it's it's like taking a test or like the hardest test of your life, probably like
so
nerve-wracking. Yeah.
And at the point that I had taken that, I had invested a lot of time now. So now I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through with it because God's opening doors for me that I'm not opening, obviously. And so even the oral board, I walked into there.
What's the oral board?
So the oral board is you have 4 or 5 police officers sitting at a table in front of you, and you're in like a single table, like against
like an
the
interrogation.
wall.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And so they ask you lots of questions, and if you don't answer the right way, then you're done.
Yeah.
And Mom and I had come down, and I remember being a little bit later than I had wanted to be because we drove all the way down. Right. Most people live in that area. Yep. They're taking the test. And we got there probably 15 minutes before my start time, which hindsight, I would have liked to have been more like a half an hour and been waiting. Mm-hmm. So the person before me had actually gotten done a little bit early, and they were kind of waiting for me. And behind closed doors, I found out later they were basically saying, if he's not here in like 5 minutes, we're just going to leave.
That's so not fair.
And could you imagine going all the way down there and then getting locked doors?
Right. Like I'm early. What do you want from me?
Right.
Not early
so
enough.
I was behind the 8 ball with that already.
Yeah.
And so I came in, sat down, and it just went so well. I was just trying to be honest and trying to be genuine.
They found out you drove 4.5 hours.
They found out and that went a long way. Yeah. And, I told them, like, we're leaving right after this to go back.
Not just that you drove 4.5 hours, but that you had driven 4.5 hours at that point multiple times.
Right.
Cared about, you were there.
Cared about the process, yeah.
Right.
Answered the questions really well, I think. I'm friends with all of them now, obviously, because we work together. But when I had left the room, the lead guy had looked at the others and said, like, he's getting hired. So I didn't know this, but it was pretty reassuring to hear that afterwards that something was going on right. So I went down to the polygraph, and man, I don't know if we can get into it before the next break, but you talk about strenuous.
Really?
If you don't have anxiety about something, go in one of those rooms sometime.
Dang.
So
would you rather take the polygraph test for the first time? Because like the second time, it's nothing like the first time.
Correct.
So pretend you could take it again for the first time, right? Would you rather take that polygraph test for the first time, or do the the whole like they tase you and pepper spray you gig for the first time?
Oh gosh. Oh man.
Polygraph for sure, right?
I'd still do the polygraph, I think. Man.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah, well, 50,000 volts.
Yeah. It can be pretty bad and still
spray.
be worth it.
My gosh,
Which,
man. We got to get into that next
I want to know, okay,
bro.
pepper spray or taser. Let's go there next.
Okay, let's do that.
We got to tell that story because everybody wants to know that story.
What is it at right now? What's the number?
25. Let's wait.
Okay, no, well, 25. I can just tell you about the polygraph.
Yeah.
So it is so intricate. The polygraph is so intricate to the fact that you are sitting on a sensor on the seat.
Okay.
To measure your squirming and your moving.
No.
Yeah.
Not like the movies. Like it's legit.
Not like the movies.
Dang.
You have sweat monitors on,
okay,
and heart rate monitors. You also have a thing around your chest that monitors your breathing. So the data,
you can't get away with anything,
I guess.
Do they have a camera on you to like check your facial features and stuff? Like, because that's like more pseudoscience. Like, I don't know if they would rely on, like, they look to the left when they're lying. Like, that's kind of been disproven.
Right.
But like, did they have a camera on you? Do you know?
I don't remember. No? Actually, I think they may have just like a webcam.
Yeah. You look to the left.
They give you categories. So they'll give you categories like your health, and then they'll give you substance use. Then they'll give you education, background. And then these packets, you have to fill them out on your own.
Oh.
And then after you're all hooked up, they say, was there anything in packet 1 regarding your health that you lied about?
Do you have to corroborate your own like answers? Do they do that
specifically?
Okay.
But they may, if like they see irregularities, they might be a little bit. And
ask you about it.
A lot of it's to kind of try to catch you in lies.
Yeah.
So to put something down on a piece of paper and then to lie about it.
Not be able to back it up. Yeah, to lie about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I never used marijuana. Have you ever used marijuana? You're showing a reading that maybe you're not telling the truth here. Have you? Okay, well, I did one time. Fail.
Dang. You got to be like 100% honest.
Yep. So what is it at right now? I just don't want to run. 27. Oh, 27? Oh, that's nothing. Psh. We're just going with this, people. So
This is great. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I remember getting done with it, and he comes over and looks at the screen. And he goes, "You're showing deception all over the place." And I remember being like,
"What?"
First of all,
that's crazy.
I never used anything. I don't drink alcohol. I just as clean razors, like straight down the middle as it gets.
Yeah. He got the job, folks. So
he was suspicious.
Yeah. What?
Because I had said no to everything. He's like, nobody's this clean.
Oh,
Nobody's
just your
clean.
answers were, but like your polygraph was not showing. Do they know real time if you're lying or not? Like in the movies, they know, or is this like they have to look at the data afterwards?
Yeah.
So he was
more to it.
Okay, so he was suspicious.
There's games to it,
and couldn't quite tell right then if you were actually being on. So he was suspicious because you were like too clean.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he had said, like, look at, you're jumping all over here, showed me the graphs and everything. And my biggest fear was and I told him to his face, I said, my biggest fear was to come in here and tell the 100% truth and for you to say that I'm lying.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, we'll try it again. And then I passed. He's like, oh, okay, you passed with flying colors. Nice. And he said I was lying about like my medical history, which is like the one thing is like, I don't think there was a surgery that I wasn't aware of or what. It's just kind of strange, but yeah, man, passed it. And
that's amazing. So it's like way different than the movies.
It's different.
Yeah, it's more. It's more like
it's intense.
More intense, and it's more. There's more stuff to it. More science based.
Yeah.
Like they got
and more games.
Yeah, and more games.
Yeah, for sure.
They like trying to trick you.
Oh yeah.
What?
And it works.
Yeah. Dang man. That's
all right. Let's take a break.
That's fascinating.
Let's take a break, and we'll come right back. We'll keep going into that.
Dude, you said that on camera. Thin blue line.
You can't say thin blue line.
Thinking.
How dare you?
Okay, so. Everybody loves a good taser pepper spray experience story.
They do?
Yeah.
That's because they've never done it before.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I said everybody loves a good story about it.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's about as far as it goes.
Okay,
None of us actually want to do it.
Oh, rewinding real quick back to the polygraph. So after the polygraph is the psych test, and you have to like go and sit with a psychologist. And anyways, that person told me that they get referred to by the polygraph person.
Okay.
That polygraph person told them, this is probably the squeakiest clean person I've ever met. And so it's interesting that it basically showed that he was skeptical of my lack of dirt.
Yeah, like thought you were a really good liar or...
Yep. Yeah, he said to her, there's no way anybody's this clean.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
That's fascinating. Like you did too good a job. You're too good a person. Like you're too good for this job.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, so then
funny.
All of that got my conditional offer. We did a few other things, got hired. Then the academy started.
Oh yeah, they don't pepper spray and tase you as part of the interview process. That's way down the road.
That's showing a lot.
We just skipped. We skipped over a lot. Oh yeah.
So then the guy pepper sprays you right in the face.
Better not tell it or better not lie.
If you lie to me, I'm gonna pepper spray you in the eyes. It'd probably work better.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or
Tell
more
me the
effectively. Waterboarding them. Yeah. I got hired, and then the decision was the academy was going to only start like in a month, maybe 6 weeks after that. So I had to come up here and basically change my whole life. Get out of my program for education and move.
Mm-hmm.
To another state.
You had to make the decision pretty much right away.
Yeah,
whether you're going to go for
and
it or not.
With college, it was different because I had roommates there with this and people that I knew, and I knew that I would have teammates and a support system at least a little bit. With this, I moved down to a city I didn't know. I lived like 20 minutes away from the academy. No friends, not a ton of experience with how to live on my own at that point, and my family was going to be hundreds of miles away. So, and I was going to go through something that would turn out to be one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I knew it was going to be 7 months of terror, and I was very unprepared for that, for what it was actually going to entail.
Did you have any indication or expectations from them as to what it would be like, or was it intentionally?
Yeah, I was intentionally
they didn't give you any expectations of what it was going to be like.
Like you can go on YouTube and see what academies are kind of like, but I didn't do that.
They didn't give you. There was no prep. Like there was no orientation day where it's like, hey, we're about to start academy. Here's what you can expect. Nothing like that.
No, they would tell you that the academy was starting, but not what to expect. It was kind of on purpose. That was on purpose. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Just for the poor soul like me who wasn't like experienced with this. A lot of the guys had heard from other people who had gone through the academies what it was like, but I didn't, because I didn't know them. So
that makes sense.
I got down there and I got my own place and I got my own bills and I've got to stay there. So my parents came down, helped me move. We went and got my khaki uniforms because you don't get your blues until you graduate. So khaki uniforms with the ties and the hat and all the pins and the tie clip, and everything had to be in perfect order. And then we had orientation day, which was like I want to say it was on a Monday, only a couple of months after my offer. Just a lot happened all at once. And my family came down and they basically left, and I was there by myself. Very hard thing to go through. I'm a homegrown guy. I don't like to be alone. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any support system because this was going to be a commuter academy, which means every morning you report at, the doors open at 8. Obviously, you have to be there well before then. And then you're out at 4. But when you're out at 4, you have coursework to do, and you got to get your uniform back ready to go, and then you sleep, and all you do is sleep about getting yelled at in the academy.
Dream about.
And I think it would have been nice to have just somebody there to be like, give me a hug after a hard day or whatever. Anyway, none of that, all by myself. And so we did orientation day, and they took us to a local salon and shaved all our heads, which was like it was a real
wake-up call,
mind trick for me. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I didn't like that. But it kind of gave me the feeling that there's going to be a lot not in my control here. And the idea was to produce uniformity and just that we would be able to act as one singular unit that wasn't special in any way. We found that out. Orientation was an easier day, though. They just kind of went through what to expect as far as curriculum and some different things. There's 33 of us in the classroom that day.
Wow.
And one of the individuals was looking around and had told a buddy of mine that, he goes, I'm looking around and there are guys here that are not going to make it. They're not going to make it. Like, they just don't have what it takes.
And
so day one comes, the next day. The doors fly open off their hinges. We're all standing in formation outside. And this was in October. And my life changed
what happened
pretty
to that fella?
quickly. That is the only guy that didn't come back. And we graduated with 32.
Isn't
So
that
it's amazing.
there's a lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's got to be. Yeah, I think he was projecting some insecurities, obviously.
That's crazy.
And so he didn't show up for day 2, actually.
That quick.
Yep.
So 30. So basically everybody graduated. That's
Everybody except for him.
yeah, that's crazy.
But we had, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it unless you're in it, because it feels like sometimes words don't do it justice.
I'm sure.
On how much stress and pressure that you're put under. And it's all for a reason. That's the part that people don't really understand about academies. Oh, well, it's so hard, and it kind of makes them to be paramilitary and these things. You have to have some of those things. You need attention to detail. You need command presence. And you have to be able to properly function under high stress, because that is all the job is. Anyway, first day, crazy. I mean, it was so difficult. You look at like a boot camp hell week, and it was like that for us for like 5 months. We didn't get to talk to each other at lunch. Like, we were being, obviously the attention to detail had to be on point. If your tie bar was crooked, or if your flag pin was more than an 1/18 of an inch off kilter from your nameplate, then we would be in big trouble. A lot of stuff like that. I mean, I could literally talk about that for hours, and I don't a lot, which is interesting. Like, I don't really talk to people other than my academy mates, like how it was, what happened. I got a million stories probably. They're all repressed. I probably have to find them deep in my memory. But the first day, we stood in formation at attention, and I stared at a wall. And I can tell you exactly where the block is that I was staring at, so that the drill instructors wouldn't look at me. Because if you looked at the drill instructors, that was a no-no. They came in. These are all ex-military guys, all ex-Marines. They come in with their big hats, and super intimidating, and loud voices, and screaming at you and punishing you for your inadequacies or whatever. But like I said, it's all calculated to kind of break you down and build you up to learn how to deal with that.
Did you know it at the time? You must have. Like, do you think you like kind of knew that at the time? Like, you knew what this was and that it was for a reason, like, right? Like,
well,
I'm sure
so we're
you'd heard
standing
of
at
this
attention,
before.
and the chief comes in and says, like, just so you know, you might not agree with all these methods, but there's a reason.
Yeah.
And right then I was kind of like, that doesn't sound great. And then the door opened, the drill instructors marched in.
Yeah. Did that help?
File.
Knowing that ahead of time? Yeah.
No, not
crazy.
a chance.
It's like
no.
a psychological.
So the crazy part is
game.
as the chief is finishing up, all the command staff for the entire police department is lined up on the side wall, and the drill instructors are standing behind him. Mm-hmm. And like, you don't look at them ever, because it's, I don't know, sign of disrespect maybe. These are Marines, and most of them were active duty, like infantrymen who have been through it, and they know. So our senior drill instructor came in front of the chief and gave a salute, rendered a salute, and he said, "The platoon's in your hands." And then he walked away,
yeah, go ahead.
And my heart sank.
Yeah. Okay. Can I tell a little story?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say that these former military guys came in, they were it's like a career, like they transitioned to the police as a career, right? From exit the military, enter the police, the law enforcement.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I went to a program where you go for a week and you spend a week at a school, and they teach you about American government and all this stuff. But part of the school, do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard you talk a little bit about this.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
not in detail.
This is nothing at all like what you're talking about. Let's just get that out of the way. But before you talk about what it was like to be under these drill instructors, I want to tell a little bit about this experience because it'll help the viewer know how serious it is. So anyway, yeah. So we go there and we learn about American government for a week, but the other half of the structure is that you live a military lifestyle while you're there, which means we were divided up into platoons. So we got all these high school kids, and we're living in barracks, and each platoon is under the command of, there were active duty Marines there.
So you get some of it.
So we were, so you get like each platoon, like our platoon had one active duty member of the Marine Corps there, and we had formation every day, PT, like, you know, we had to have our bunks straight, our room straight, like the whole experience, I'm sure, like, you know, lightened down to like what a high school kid can handle. I'm sure it was way not as difficult. Anyway, so day one, we're standing in formation, and kids were terrified. Like the Marines were running us through, like we kind of had that come to Jesus moment too, but like in a high school level, nothing at all like what you went through. Again, I want to get that out of the way. But for high school kids, it terrified the crap out of us. Like this guy was yelling at us. They had us, you know, at attention, doing push-ups. Kids would screw up and do something wrong. He'd pull them out and have them do push-ups, like the whole thing. Yep. And I'll never forget this. Day one, we're standing in formation. They got us doing like, hold your hands out here for 10 seconds and do this. And it's like, you know, like 85 degrees out in the middle of summer. And I passed out. Like I straight up fainted.
You were the guy in line, just fell.
Yeah. Okay. Face. So the kids were so scared. We were so terrified. Like they had us scared straight. Yeah. I remember like, so we're doing the whole arm thing. I locked my knees and I fainted. Didn't have enough water that day. I passed out. I remember like falling into the kid behind me and nobody moved.
Yeah.
Nobody moved. Mm-hmm. I woke up. Everybody around me had not moved. Like the Marine had to come and like see if I was okay. People were so scared of this guy. Yes. It was crazy. So, okay. Kids were scared. This, like the Marine Corps whole thing anyway, like this guy, we were terrified of these guys. And I'll never forget like being like, oh, someone's going to help me up. And like, I kind of came to, and like everyone was like at attention around me. Nobody did anything. They were just scared to move. It was crazy. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about what it was like to live that lifestyle for 7 months.
You hit the nail. Like, man, that is how it was.
I was 17. But
whatever. I was a grown man.
Okay, go ahead and tell us how it actually is.
So when the senior drill instructor, who was in charge of the other drill instructors, stood in front of the chief, rendered a hand salute, put it, you know, and it was returned, and then they received it. He was facing away from us. Mm-hmm. And out of my peripheral, I'm kind of watching this because I don't want to dare look at them. And as soon as he said, the platoon is yours, and he about faced and walked out, and all the command staff left, and the door slammed behind them, like so hard. Yeah. And the senior drill instructor turned around and basically said, as of now, you're mine. As of now, you don't matter. As of now, the only words out of your mouth will be yes, sir, no, sir, and aye, sir. That's it. And wow. But of course he's screaming top of his lungs. This guy had some lung capacity. And then he stood to the rest of his drill instructor staff and said, fall in. And they let us have it. They were flocking. They were tearing off ties and throwing them on the ground. And because we were unsat. It's unsatisfactory. We were unsat. And they were making us satisfactory. Mm-hmm. So the next week was Hell Week, but it continued, and we had a really good class. So I think that helped. I think they pushed us more than they maybe otherwise would have. And one thing I wanted to mention about the community academy, there's pluses and minuses to both. I think that when you're in an academy location and you have to stay overnight there and stuff like that, there's plenty of that stuff that goes around. But our drill instructor staff knew that we weren't doing that, so they made the 8 hours that we were there or whatever
count
mind-numbingly difficult. Yep. So
I got a question. I'm gonna have so many questions because this is I just like hearing. So actually, interesting. That's what my question is about. I love hearing the story. Like I love hearing about, like, you know, the platoon is yours and fall in and all that stuff. Most guys like see that, they're like, oh, that's so cool. That's so sick and tough. You went through it. Do you like not see it that way at all anymore? Like you're watching a movie and it's like, oh, this is so cool. You hear somebody talk about it. It's like most guys would be like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
No, not anymore.
It still is terrifying. Yeah. It's different because I'm out of it and I know them now. Like all those drill instructors I worked with side by side, obviously in the field.
Like see through the facade.
So you know them. One of them is actually one of my field training officers. So like you get to know them and they're just guys.
Yeah.
But no, in the moment, No. If I
Ruined
was to
it.
do the academy again, I think I would understand that it's mostly games that they're playing with you and trying to get you to where they want you to be. Yeah. But in that moment, man, I've watched a few academy videos since being, obviously since then, and it just doesn't do it justice. It just doesn't do it justice. It is the most stressed out and blood pumping situations you've ever been in, and it didn't end. Like normally you would think there's a period and then they kind of let off. Ours didn't do that. Like we were getting in trouble the week before our graduation. That's how they were. And there's so many things that you do in the academy where you need to learn. It's extremely academically demanding. Physically, that goes without saying. But then there's technical work that you need to do. You need defensive tactics. You need to learn how to handcuff. You need to learn how to use firearms. You need to learn how to make proper car stop techniques, how to talk on the radio, how to render CPR, how to be an EMT, which we all were. And there's medical units and so much. There's just so much to it. In 7 months, I can't believe we got it all done. It's quite like it just packs into you. And I remember graduating, pretty fun moment, one of the best moments. And we had some family friends come down, and like just one of the more proud moments I've ever had. Obviously, until having children and being married, but
Personal
I remember
accomplishments. Yeah, it's got to be the best.
I remember being done with that and just being like, I did it.
You can do anything.
Like I did. I can do anything. Yeah. That's a pretty good lesson to learn. That served me so well. Just that aspect of it, learning how to overcome adversity and that I can do it. I can do it. People are so much more capable than they think. And the more that you can go through hard things, the more that you can learn that you can overcome them and you can get better and you can grow.
Were there like throughout the 7 months of the academy or the 5 months that it was like really, really, really hard? Did you ever feel like I could quit? Did that ever cross your mind?
After the first week, I had many thoughts of what am I doing here? Like I am so out of my comfort zone. It was so difficult. I don't know how many calories you would expend on a single day, but it had to have been an unbelievable amount. You come home, you're broken, you're hurt, you've been screamed at all day. Emotionally, you're drained, and then you have to prepare dinner, then you have to do your homework, then you have to get your uniform perfect in every single way, military presses, ironed, washed, the whole thing. And then when you go to sleep, it's not like you have a break from it because all you're doing is replaying the day in your head as you sleep. At least that was my experience. I had the desire to go home, but I didn't really have the option. I had a lease also, which was kind of a good thing that kept me there. I had obligations. So I felt
you could go work at the local grocery store.
Yeah.
Like you can convince yourself of that stuff. Like when that pressure is on you, you can either like accept it or you can be like, I can quit and go do this instead and I'll be fine.
Yeah,
like,
the grass is greener.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, doing something that's not hard.
Yeah. Did you ever seriously consider it?
Not really. No. I just felt like I was there. In some ways I felt like I was stuck. Which is not
super nice though, right? Like that probably because you weren't, but like you happened to be in that mindset that I don't have any other options. You did.
Yeah.
But like you didn't think you did.
I didn't think I did.
Yeah.
That's what probably got me through at least the hardest parts. Yeah. And like most of the people in the academy had families to go home to that night. And I think that's huge.
Yeah,
and Mom had said, I wish you'd had somebody just to come home to.
Yeah. You kind of felt like you were on an island.
Decompress. I felt like I was on an island.
Just got to do this. There's no other choice. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
But the academy was wild. I mean, we did EVOC training, which is, evasive maneuvers for vehicles and like some cool stuff. Obviously you have like your rifle training and your pistol training and all of those things, which are also cool. But the pepper spray and the taser was not very cool.
Which was worse? Okay. Like settle the debate. Which is worse?
I am of fairer skin, which is not a good thing for pepper spray.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't know the science of it.
But that's like the word on the street. Like everybody knows
That's
that.
what they said.
Yeah.
They said to me like, "This is gonna be rough for you because you're fair skin."
I wonder why.
Maybe it's just exposure.
Okay.
So like, for example, I would have a harder time in hard heat than somebody who is maybe not as fair skinned. So I think I would get tased every day for a month before I would get OC sprayed again.
That bad.
For me personally. I think everybody had a little different experience, but the taser is the same amount of pain, but for 5 seconds, and then it's done.
That's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
For the most part, until they take the barbs out of you.
Ow.
The OC spray lasts for days for me.
Okay.
Every time you get into water, you reactivated it. So the best part was I knew that was going to be rough, and they did it on a Friday so that we would
have a break.
Have a nice weekend dealing with that. Yeah. A break, yeah. I mean,
well, like, you know, like, would it have been better, do you think, to go back to the, you know, which was better? Which would have been worse?
Yeah, probably. There's no really good way to do it. But I think for them too,
probably worse actually, because at least if it's on a Monday and you go back Tuesday, you're like preoccupied with all the crap they're giving you. And
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's a good point. But my grandma and grandpa's there surprised me. They were at my apartment when I got home that day. Dude, what a boost. Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that was actually
oh my gosh.
helpful.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
My grandma's there, made spaghetti dinner. And
okay. Yeah. Just from like a helping standpoint.
Oh my goodness. And support.
Yeah. You probably felt like terrible though, right?
Yeah,
like,
they don't release you from the academy until you can see well.
Okay.
Obviously. Like, so you're there trying to
drive home.
So you can drive home safely.
But you can't though, right? Because it doesn't go away.
Well,
what is that like? Can you even really drive home safely?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you can.
Bear it for a few minutes.
But as soon as you try to wash it out or anything, it's just like you're getting sprayed all over again.
Yeah.
So I remember being in pain, and I kind of like, you're like this, like you're squinting, like you're walking. I have a picture with grandma and grandpa's there, and I'm like, but they were just gonna hang out, and I remember getting there. Grandma started dinner, and it was just amazing. Like they were waiting for me.
Did they know that this was the day?
In the elevator, like outside of the elevator. So I opened up the elevator, having no idea there was going to be anybody there, and I was struggling. I was like, I'm in so much pain right now. And they were right there, and it was just like,
was this day planned? And they came down because they knew.
I guess. Yeah, I guess. And so Grandpa, I think, was just kind of being there, and I left them. And I said, I'm going to go in and try to take a shower, see if I can get some of this out of my eyes. I was in there for almost 4 hours, I think. 3 hours, and an hour and a half of that was just staring at the water,
because you knew that as soon as you got in, it would hurt all over again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez, and Grandma, she said that she remembered just feeling so terrible that I was in there and like making sure that I was okay. And
is that the best way to get rid of it though? Like, or like, do you have to wash it out and almost go through that?
Kind of
until it's gone. You can't just like let it go in. It's got to be washed out.
Yeah. Well, the issue is that even when you get it out, it's all over your skin still. So like if the water's rushing down and you have it in your eyebrows, it's coming right back into your eyes again.
So you're like kind of like trying to get it off of your body.
Yeah. And this was military grade OC spray, which is what we carried on a daily basis, which is not what you can
buy.
There's just no woman walking down the street and having that in their purse. This is like military grade. It's as bad as it gets. And oh my goodness. We had to like open up our eyes, and they'd like, and then, so the cool part about that is once you're sprayed, you have a bunch of tasks you have to do. So you have to go fight, and you have to hit a bag, and you have to, do some jujitsu on the ground and get some lockups and handcuffing, and you have to identify weaponry and like all these crazy things, so that when you're in the field and you've been inadvertently sprayed or somebody sprayed you, then you know what it feels like and you know how to perform.
When they spray your eyes, and then does it immediately? The pain immediate.
Oh yeah.
And then they make you do those tests. Okay,
it's
immediate.
instantaneous, and it feels the best way that I can describe it. And I don't even know if it does it justice, but as if you like had a picture frame, like a glass picture frame, you smashed it all up into tiny little pieces, and then lit it on fire and threw it in your eyes. That's the best way I can explain it. It's what it feels like.
How do you get through that? That doesn't even make sense.
There were so many times in the police academy, Nick, where you have to have the mindset that I'm just going to get through it.
Jeez,
I'm just going to do it.
Makes my eyes water. You're making my eyes water.
Yeah. So interesting part about that is when I see, like if I'm watching Cops or live PD or whatever, and I watch somebody get sprayed, my eyes start to tear up.
Yeah, I bet.
Without any conscious reaction. It's just PTSD.
I'm sure. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video of that kid that is going through some police academy, and they spray him, and it doesn't affect him. He effortlessly goes through the tasks, and like he's a beast. Have you seen that?
There's a couple of people who
Don't react to it?
Didn't react to it at all, hardly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, Neil Nair, I mean, he didn't really bother him.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
Yeah, it didn't really bother him. And with the taser, too, because he was a skinnier guy. So the muscle mass with the taser is a big thing.
Yeah.
It is.
It takes more to get through your, more contact.
The taser, we had the option. We have, our buddies are holding us, and they're standing there with the dots on you. We had the option to have the probes that shoot out and probe, like physically go into you, stick into you, and then draw an arc between those two things. That's how it works. So you want a good spread. You don't want it like a forearm and a bicep. It's only going to get your arm
localized.
So you want
pain,
correct. And you try not to arc it through where the heart is. And like, there's different ways, you know.
What if they mess that? Whoops.
It happens.
Just a heart attack.
You just got to try not to. You know, okay. I don't. In the real world, it's a little bit more difficult than a guy standing there being held by two people and then you shoot him.
That's true. Yeah.
You know. So.
Or the other choice was.
The other choice was clamps. Okay. So they would have the wires already out and clamp like your thigh and your calf.
Okay.
Or whatever. And so they asked me which one I did. And I was like, oh, I'll do the clamp. They're like, barbs it is. You know how the academy.
So which is worse, the clamps?
I don't know. They're both terrible. I mean, it's barbed. So,
okay.
Yeah,
that part hurts too.
Yeah.
The initial impact hurts.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just tensing.
Does it not start the electrocution process until they activate that, or does it start as soon as it barbs you?
As soon as it hits you.
Okay. So you kind of don't really feel the barbs going in. You just mostly feel electrocution.
Yeah.
Then the pulling out.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long does the electrocution happen for? And do they 27? Do they turn that off, or does the gun automatically do that? Turn it off. Like you can only be tased for a certain.
It stops.
It stops. Okay.
It's 5 second intervals.
So you
can hit that a bunch of times. So like in the field when we had used tasers, it gives you 5 seconds, and then you can dry stun also, like at the end of that 5 seconds if needed. But you can also administer 5 second rounds.
Is there a limit? Is there a limit to that? Does the gun prohibit you?
It depends on the use of force continuum. Okay. So it depends on a lot of things.
But not the actual weapon itself. There's no limit on you can just,
correct.
Okay. Yeah.
But it does have 2 shots. Does that make sense? Okay. So the ones that we carried, you can shoot once and then you can send multiple loops of that 5 seconds through that one. And if you need to shoot another one, you can. So it has 2 cartridges.
At the same time. Oh.
Yeah, so bang, bang. You could hit 2 cartridges at the same time and then administer. So as needed.
Cool.
As needed.
Yeah. So you went through that. You got zapped.
Yeah, man. And it's on video. We should be showing it.
Yeah, we should.
Dude. No,
well, we're not even.
I showed it to my mom and she started crying.
Like, I wouldn't cry. I'd probably laugh.
I was screaming like I was dying.
No, yeah, that would be hard to watch. So, yeah, I mean, we could bring you back as a multiple co-host / guest.
I'll be here all the time. Well, for the most part.
Yeah, I almost wish that we could have had this as like Brock the police officer episode. Like today's topic is what is policing in the modern world like with Brock Roggie.
Oh man, we haven't even talked about that. Yeah,
we could. I mean, there's probably so much. We actually could do that because there's so much.
That's fine.
If you ever were comfortable talking about what your days on the job were like,
okay,
we could. I love it. You're probably a wealth of knowledge in that area. But
there's a lot to go into.
We'll save that for a specific episode because it deserves a dedicated episode. What's it like policing in today's, especially in a big population area? But let's talk about what does Brock believe in? What are some things that Brock believes in?
Oh man.
Yeah, like what's important to you? You're a family man. You've got a wife and you have 2 children at the moment. You're married to my sister-in-law, Stephanie.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you up to these days?
I want to make it very clear that while all of that stuff in my past may be exciting and is important, it pales in comparison to my family. My priorities have become so clear in the last about 5 or 6 years since meeting Stephanie, that's what I'm here for. It's amazing that family is so torn apart in our country and in the culture. It's heartbreaking to see. And from the police side, obviously you see that, but
We're going to get canceled for talking about the nuclear family.
yeah, how dare we? Unbelievable that's where we are in a lot of spaces. I think we're a little bit isolated in our little community up here, but I just am very passionate about my kids, my marriage. I am. I'm trying to always get better at everything that encompasses those two topics. I have been married for just over 4 years now. I am by no means going to give anybody any advice on marriage yet. I have a lot to learn. I'm trying to learn every single day, and we're not perfect. Well, we're trying. You have to fight for your marriage. You have to work hard at it. It's a job, and when you aren't vigilant and diligent in your spouse and knowing how to make things continuously better, then you can get distracted very easily. And that is just how people fall apart. You lack humility, you lack patience, you let pride take over. And I'm looking at my marriage a lot of times and how I can avoid those things. Mm-hmm. If we have to sit down and have a difficult discussion, I'd rather do that and have it done so I don't have to keep dealing with it all the time.
Yeah, but what if she needs time to think about it?
Oh, don't start with me. Okay, so
that is not a gender-specific role.
Yeah, no, it's not.
By the way,
it's not. No, it's
actually
not.
I know a lot of marriages where, it's the woman wants to hash it out and the man needs time to think about it. So let's all just calm down
before we get canceled.
Man. I'm the attacker in my marriage, and my wife needs time to think about things.
Yeah, same.
And that's no perfect role. There's definitely some flaws in the let's talk about it now personality.
Right.
More flaws, I would say. Actually, I would say there's way more flaws in that personality.
I think so. It takes a very okay. So I can usually tell pretty quickly when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I can I have.
Well, that is a gender specific role because that's the man. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Because we're always wrong.
Always wrong. Yeah,
I can tell when I'm always wrong.
Yeah.
No. I feel like I can humble myself pretty quick to admit when I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think that's good. Super. Not everybody's like that. So if you are in a relationship where you need to hash things out quickly and the other person's not ready, you might as well hit your head against the wall.
Get ready to make a few mistakes if you don't just drop it.
Right. Oh. So that's hard for me to in the moment be like, I'd just like to fix this so we can move on and be happy. And
that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, man. Oh. I think most couples can relate to this.
Troubled
and it's
waters.
Like you said, I have friends who are the opposite.
Yeah.
Where the wife wants to hash things out immediately. Right. And if you're not careful with that anyway, I mean, that could be, you don't want to be repairing something like from an emotional side. Mm. You want to kind of be able to sit down and be like, where are we going with this and how can we orient to getting it better? My wife was born and raised in Connecticut. In the last year, I have noticeably, I won't speak for her, but I've noticeably seen a huge difference in our marriage, and it feels right. Like it feels like we're just clicking. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's going to be times when it's not going to feel that way, and there'll be lulls in life, but I'm just so in love with her. It's insane. It really is. Oh. And I get emotional thinking about it. She's it's cliche to say, but she is my better half. And she drives me. And a lot of the reason why I want to be better in life is because of her. And it's fun to see growth in another person through your own eyes and then want to reciprocate that as well. And she's my person. Mm-hmm. Like that's just the way that it is. And I think that everybody should strive to find that relationship in their marriage where they can just be crazy about the other person. We've had stretches where it wasn't like that, mm-hmm. like where it was harder or for various reasons. And it just getting through that and then being able to kind of build on that now is where we're at. And I'm excited for that. And I know a lot of relationships, it could be 10 years before they learn to like each other. But this is my best friend. And so we do life together, and I have chosen her and she has chosen me so that we can go to war together, and we can be is it Ecclesiastes 4:12 couple. Like, we want to be together so that one of us can't be picked apart without the other one defending. And then once you put God in there, you know, the three-stringed rope or whatever the analogy is in Ecclesiastes, maybe that's what it is. We've been drawing closer to the Lord in the last 6-8 months together. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah. That probably is. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Because we both have so much room to grow there. Mm-hmm. And I was raised in the church. She was raised in the church, but like just diving in on how we can be closer as a unit. Okay. I have 2 beautiful daughters. Perfect daughters. And if you're not a parent, you don't get it.
Nope.
You just don't get it, man. I remember growing up and lots of people around me had kids, and they're like, yeah, you'll never love anybody like you love your kids. It's just different. There's different parts of it. And you love your spouse the same level in a different way. But as soon as I held my first daughter, my whole life changed. Everything I do is going to be for them. Mm-hmm. And even the things I do for myself, and you've said this, is I find that it is for them. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be physically fit for them. Mm-hmm. I want to be attentive for them. Mm-hmm. I want to be a spiritual leader in my home for them. Mm-hmm. And I want to be security for them. I want to be the embodiment of a godly man for them.
Yeah, you have to be those things. You have to choose to be those things, because there's one thing that you don't get a choice in being, and that's their biggest example, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So you can either choose to be everything good, or you can shirk that responsibility, but guess what? You're still their biggest example. Yeah. And they're still going to learn from you. So what do you want them to learn?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, they're
doing a good job.
They're sponges, man. Mm-hmm. And all they want is you. All they want is your attention. So something that I've been really working at lately is trying to just, when my oldest is wanting my attention, to just drop what I'm doing and do that. That's hard.
It's super hard.
That's hard. Yeah. Like, life doesn't really facilitate that very well.
Yeah.
If you're not focused on it and oriented on it. Because when I'm old, I know that when I'm old, I'm going to say that it went too fast. Right. But in the moment, I want to think that I used the time wisely and that I was intentional about spending time with them, so that they will do that with their kids and instill those same things with their kids.
Yeah.
There's man, if I was to like lay out the things that I've done, or lay out the things that I'm doing, being a husband and a father are at the top, and it's not close after that.
It's not close. And the people that, oh man, what gets me is that there is a segment of society, it's probably in our generation, or it's a newer generational thing, I think, that discount marriage and parenthood kind of in the same sentence. And you have to realize that when you become a parent and or a spouse, how you would feel if you lost them.
Oh, don't get me started.
How you would feel if you lost them.
Yep.
Would be like no other feeling that you could feel in any other area in your life. And that's proof that it sets apart marriage and parenthood. It's a set apart thing. You can't beat it. Like, it's the greatest accomplishment. It's the best thing. So there's the whole argument, like, the whole argument advocating for parenthood, and you should want to get married and have children. It's the greatest thing you'll ever do. And then people kind of balk at that.
Right. Yeah.
It is the greatest thing.
It's the greatest thing I've ever done.
And there's proof. You can think about evidence that points towards that. Like, well, get it, and then imagine not having it. What's that feel like? Like nothing else, like no other loss you could ever encounter. Right. That's evidence. Like, it's the greatest thing you could ever do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, have kids. Like, yeah. I mean, kids and marriage are different. You jump in front of a bullet and a train for both of them. 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're great and different in their own respective ways. Yeah.
Something about that is that there's definitely that demonization. And gosh, I think it just comes back to what true masculinity really looks like. For me, the protector and the influence that I have in my home is such that I can be vulnerable with them, and I want to be the warrior for my marriage, and I want to be a warrior for my kids. And that has to take place with an emotional sensitivity and a place where you can become more vulnerable with them also, but at the same time understand that it is my responsibility in some of these ways. If my family is in trouble, I'm going to step up and I'm going to take care of it. That's what masculinity looks like. But at the same time, I can come home and my kids can just jump all over me all night.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes trouble looks different than, like a dad's role and a mom's role are very different. And we talked about emotional intelligence before, and it's very important for dads to have emotional intelligence, but like sometimes you got to be a dad.
Oh yeah.
And moms have to kind of turn away and let it happen. Like
they have to facilitate it.
Yeah.
That's
like
right.
Sometimes being a dad is the hard, being a dad, and you got to crack down a little bit and teach a lesson, whatever, all that stuff. Like that's difficult. And, but you have to be able to do that and keep your kids' hearts at the same time, which that's a super hard balance.
Right.
When to be a father, when you need to step into that role that only a father can fill.
That is a message that's not taught, Nick.
No.
That is a message that's not taught. You need to be nurturing and calm and soft with your kids. And yes, they need a nurturing presence in their life for at least the early years, a couple of years maybe. And then there needs to be a facilitation of growth in a different direction that typically comes through a more masculine nature of discipline and order and how to conduct yourself. And it's sometimes hard for the mother to release that, but it's necessary. It's completely necessary. And it's not easy to discipline kids, especially your kids. Like, come on, man. I don't like that I have to do that. And I think that if you can communicate that, boy, that helps. But like, how much do they really know? And you want to make sure that daddy still loves you a lot. And I think you'll go through periods also where you're having to crack down on a certain behavior to kind of smooth off the edges. And then it hurts when something happens and that child wants to run to mom. And you feel like the bad guy somewhat. But it's necessary. It's necessary.
Yeah, sometimes that's what trouble looks like is, not like a physical danger to your family, but like you see one of your children going away that only a father's touch can fix. You got to step into that role. And
it's just more natural. And there's plenty of relationships where it's the inverse, where the mom is maybe more stern and the dad is a little bit more nurturing. And a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of like how my childhood was. Yeah, my mom and dad were kind of. Yeah, maybe there's a balance. Like,
it's just a
communication
balance
with your partner is
for sure
is the biggest thing that's going to help with that, because you can't successfully step into your role as a father, and you can't successfully step into your role as a mother if you don't trust each other.
Yeah,
because you're going to witness some hard conversations and some hard sessions where you're you got it. I have it with Brielle all the time, like where she has to have a maternal role and I have to step back and not think that my way is going to be better here. You know what I mean? Like it goes both ways.
It takes
a
balance.
And I think for a mother to watch the father step into the role when the family's in trouble and needs a bit of a correction in direction, that's hard for them. So it takes a lot of trust and communication between partners to let each other fulfill our roles.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard? I don't know.
The more that you can be on the same page, like there's been plenty of times where Stephanie and I aren't necessarily on the same page with something, but the more that you can get to the same place and understand each other and then move forward with a common objective, it definitely makes it easier. But it's so important for children to be competent and disciplined because when they are 20 or 18, the life that they are going to be leading will be a reflection. And you can't have a child that was too nurtured, and you can't have a child that was too rigid and too abrasive or not emotionally sensitive or intelligent.
Almost like
it's a crazy full-time job. There's no more meaning that you can find than going to war for your marriage or for your kids. And I'm going to do that. I'm passionate about that. I think that I can be macho, masculine, and strong, and and chase people down who try to kick in my door. But like, there's so many aspects of it where masculinity looks like strong competence. That's a huge word, competence. And ability to lead, and also a side that can be reflective from your kids so that they know that daddy's home and it's time to play and put makeup on daddy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely a softer side of that a lot of the red pill community right now would be like, you just have to be strong all the time and you can't show any forms of sensitivity or weakness. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't think that's right.
No.
But
no, yeah, like, it's a huge role for a father to be the playmate. Yeah. There's a huge like phase in a child's life where like that's dad's role, is to be their play partner.
Yeah.
Just wrestle all the time. Like, like play with the kids like that. Man, I wish I remember where I heard that. I don't remember, but I think I recently had a conversation where sometimes that's just a dad's role. Like, their job is to just be a source of play for their children, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they ultimately they want to be with you and they want your attention.
Yeah.
So if you can facilitate that in ways that are going to help them learn on a fun side of it too, that's how you get a healthy balance. Because anytime that you hear from a child who's maybe, I mean, gosh, I don't know how disassociated the kids were that I would come in contact with in policing. Their dad was too strict or not there.
We're not there.
Or whatever. And then you can see that. You can see that borne out in their decisions and where their life leads them, and they needed somebody who was intentional about that, because it is the most important thing that you can do. It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we're called to do that. So luckily I have the best partner for that. For me, that balances me out just right, and we are constantly rubbing off on each other that way. And one of the concepts I love most is that precision requires resistance. So if you think about when you're using a knife to cut something, you're not just like slicing at it all weird if you want it precise. No, you have to like apply resistance and cut smoothly and slowly. And in a marriage and in parenting, man, that's huge, because if you don't, then before you know it, you're veering off the wrong way. And if you're not attentive to it, it can spiral and it can be gone. And you have to look out for that. Like, it's just as much the father's role and the husband's role as it is the mother's.
Precision requires resistance.
Yeah, I believe that.
On that. It's one of those good sayings.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe it means nothing. Maybe if you look into it, it means absolutely nothing.
I like it. That sounds good. I think that's a good place to wrap up for the day. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll have to. We're definitely gonna do this again. I'd love to talk more with you about parenting and fatherhood and fitness. Like, you're a pretty fit dude, so we've got some things you could probably share with me and the audience. And we'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. And we'll be in for it.
So that's Brock. He's the co-host, one of the co-hosts of the show. And we'll get to know him just a little bit here, but we'll have to get to know him some more soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Sounds
folks.
good, man. See ya.